lingüística.
Welcome. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the basics about the alphabet. Now, in different videos to come after this one, I will cover some of the phonology. I will cover pronunciation of certain graphs, for example, letters, and other things that will help individuals comprehend Spanish pronunciation. But let's begin. So the alphabet, we can say alphabet or ABCs. It's the same thing. So alphabet will just be alfabeto. And this is just alpha. Think of alpha and beta, alfabeto, alfabeta. Right? Just the first two letters of Greek. And that's where this comes from. And then the other, we have abecedario. So this is supposed to be a B. But anyway, just think about it this way. A, B, C, and then D, which is spelled that way. And then this suffix here, so this is just the, the collection of ABCs. So this would be the same thing as saying alphabet. This would be the same thing as saying ABCs, to an extent. Now, as far as letters in the Spanish language, and remember, I might use Spanish or Castilian interchangeable because for the purpose of this, they are. We generally don't think of Spanish as, like, I don't know, Catalan or Basque as far as the language. Generally, when we say Spanish or do you speak Spanish, we're thinking Castilian. But here we go. So, as far as the alphabet, some of the letters are very, very similar. Actually, they're all pretty much the same, except for one, which is what makes Spanish Spanish. But we have A, and it's just A, B, C. Now, I will have a video, for example, about the vowels, because the vowels are different in Spanish than in English for the most part. English has far more vocalic sounds than Spanish. Spanish is much simpler when it comes to that. Here we have B. And this isn't pronounced the same as English all of the time. And that's something I will cover. Sometimes it is, most of the time it is not. There's two sounds in Spanish for this graph, and later on, once we get to V, V is pronounced just like this one in Spanish. So there's no difference, such as English or other languages. So we have A, B, C, as I keep moving the screen. Now, we also have che. Now, it might be tempting to call this CH, CH, but it's not a CH, it's che. That is the name. So the name will be this, right? English, for example, we would just call this a CH because it's two letters. But in Spanish, even though it's two letters, two graphs, it represents just one phoneme. And that is the reason why, right? Now, a quick little note. This one here, you can pronounce se as if it were just an S, or you can pronounce the, especially if you want to imitate the dialect of Spain. Well, we're overgeneralizing. The South doesn't really do it. But this would be similar to th in the word thought. Now, later on, I'm going to be using the actual linguistic symbols. So, for example, this for the International Phonetic Language. But for now, I'm just going to do this in this video, right? Now, back to che. So if we look at che, in dictionaries, say older than 2005, maybe, I don't remember when this changed exactly, but the Spanish Royal Academy decided to simplify, right? Have to use air quotes in the English video. Simplify the alphabet to make it match other languages more closely, supposedly to make it easier for people in those languages to learn the alphabet. I don't understand why. It's che, right? It's just one more letter. And then there's another one, and there's four. It's just four. No big deal. Now, one of the important things is this one will always be cha. It's not like English where it could be cha, Charlie. It could be sha, Charles, or Charles, right? But sha. It's not going to be ka, like chaotic. It's always cha. And that's something important to note. So Spanish, for example, is a phonetic language. When we say it's a phonetic language, what we mean is the way it's spelled, that's the way it's pronounced, right? There are some letters, for example, if you were spelling it, that you might make some orthographic errors, and we're going to get to one of those letters in a bit. But if you make an orthographic error, it's not a big deal. You can correct it, but as far as pronunciation, it will be pronounced the same. And I'll give an example once we get to that letter. But so far again, we have A, B, C, Ch, D, and this one also has two different sounds. E, F, G, H. So, H, this is a silent letter in Spanish. This is never pronounced unless it's a borrowed word. Maybe we're saying Harry, right? Like, what's his name? His name is Harry. Se llama Harry, right? Something like that. And this is one of the letters. So, for example, let's just say somebody wants to spell the name H, H. Somebody might do this, H. Well, orthographically, this is incorrect because there's an H for the word, for its name, H. Go figure. And this is something to keep in mind. But if you were to see this spelled correctly, you would never pronounce the H. You know not to pronounce it. So this is why it's a phonetic language. You might make a mistake when spelling it. You're not going to make a mistake when reading it, assuming you know the orthographic norms. Right? You don't have to try to guess if it's chaotic or chaotic or chaotic or whatever it may be, or if it's Carly, Charlie, Charlie, Carl's, Charles, Charles. There is none of that in Spanish with this combination. So keep that in mind. So we have A, B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H. And then after this, we would have I, J, K, L. Now, in Spanish, L's are always pronounced one way. English, there's two pronunciations. Later on in future videos, once I start talking about the phonology, I will emphasize this and I will talk about the differences, making a comparison between, for example, English pronunciation and English, Spanish pronunciation and English, just to make things a little more clear. But right now, our focus is going to be this, the L. So, L. After this, we would have ella. Now, some people might call it double L. It's not a double L, it's ella, right? The sound has nothing to do with an L. If anything, it sounds more like a Y. In most Spanish dialects, most Spanish speakers will pronounce it just like a Y. There's only a few people in Asturias in Spain and in Paraguay who actually make a differentiation between these two sounds by producing the old sound, the original sound. But in most Spanish dialects, both of these sounds have converged into what we would call Y or consider Y. So that's something to keep in mind. Then after this, you would continue on with M, N, and something to keep in mind is the vocalic sounds. That's going to be very important in the following video because that's something I'm going to emphasize, the vowels. Vowels are one of the things that will make or break somebody's pronunciation. They will, especially when it comes to those two, I would say, right? The two yots. But going back to N, now we have ñ. Ñ, this is as Spanish as it gets. I mean, it would not be Spanish without ñ, which is a good thing they didn't get away, do away with this letter completely. The thing that is upsetting, for example, is if you look at newer dictionaries compared to older dictionaries, che used to have its own entry. Now you have to look for it under se or the if you want to imitate the dialect in Spain, generalizing, go to the south, you'll be surprised they don't do it. Many of them do not do it. But if you go toward the center up north, they will say the, like I said, th in English, thought. So now you have to look for this here. It's in the beginning. Just follow the alphabetical pattern. So C-A, C-E, and then C-H. Right. Ñ used to have its own entry. Now many times you'll just find it at the end of N, which is somewhat upsetting. But we don't have very many words. I don't even think we have a full dictionary page with words that begin with this letter. So I guess from that perspective, it's not a big deal. We have words like ñandu, right, which is a bird. So from the ostrich family. I'm going to say it's the ostrich family. But these are, I would say, the big ones to worry about. And then the double R. So I'm going to cover these double R, then I'm going to refer to my book. So elle, m, n, ñ, o, p, q, r, double R. All right, so this one here, this is going to be R, but you might hear some people call it ere. And this is doble R, so double R, but you might hear some people say doble ere. In some dialects, you might actually hear somebody say ere, and then say R for this one. So just keep this in mind. But my recommendation would be always call this double, and then whatever you want. If it's doble ere or doble R. Those. Go for those. And if you're wondering about the sound, how to produce that trill, so ra, that would be the trill, versus ra, that would be a flap in linguistic terms, I will have a video explaining the difference between the two, and then I will try to show how one can actually produce this sound. For some individuals, it will be difficult, nearly impossible, but if you don't have some form of speech impediment, for example, you should be able to pronounce this sound, and then eventually with practice pick it up and then just do it on command. So keep this in mind. Now after this, the rest of the letters, there's only three that are of interest. So if we refer to the book, for example, here's the alphabet, and here you can see the spelling. So you can just pause this and then see what the spelling is for the sounds. So again, this can be ere or R. People might say doblere or doble R. We'll do that. But now the ones we would continue on with S, T, U, and then this one. So B or V, W, W, W. So I'll cover these. We have X, Y, or Y. You might also hear Y. And then we have Zeta or Seda. I'm going to cover something about this in far as spelling. So the X is the one that I'm going to leave out. So I'll focus on just these four for now. And these are pretty simple, honestly. And the reason why I say this is V's and B's, just keep this in mind. V's and B's are pronounced the same in Spanish. There's no difference between the two. So when you're reading these two, it's going to be the same pronunciation. Notice how I said B. B. Now there's going to be another sound that both of these have, but it's going to be the same sound under the same environment. So do keep that in mind. But for the purpose of this, because this can be confused with this, my recommendation is to call this V, which is sort of, it would be similar to saying UV or UB, for example. The letter U and then V or B. And part of the reason is, historically, this was a U. This was also a V. So if you notice the Spanish flag says this. And this is pronounced plus ultra. And that's because V's and U's, there was one character, this, and then the reader just had to know whether it was a vocalic sound or a consonantal sound, which is one of the reasons why we have certain norms in Spanish where this is a consonant and stayed this way, and this would create confusion. Is it bebo or is it huevo? So we added an H, and now we know it's a vocalic sound. And then with time, this eventually became what we know as a U, and this stayed as a V. And there you go. Which is why, again, I'm going to recommend that you refer to this sound as ube. Now, the next one is that one, a double V or a double U. Why? Because it's literally composed of two V's or two U's. That's the reason why. So you might hear W, W, or W, double V, or you might hear WV, so WV, for example. Either one of the three is correct. I would say the most common is probably going to be the W, followed by W. And if you ever hear WV, please let me know, because I think that would be incredibly rare, if possibly not existent. So that's something to keep in mind. Now the final letter that we are going to have is the following. It will be Z. Yay, Z, fun. And in the case of Z, we have two pronunciations. We have Zeta or we have Seda. Now, if you want to imitate the peninsular dialect, this would be Theta and this would be Theda, right? So Zeta, Theta, Seda, Theda. So are you going to pronounce it as an S or TH in thought, right? Again, future videos, I will use the actual linguistic terms. Now, this one out of tradition, you can also spell this way, so don't worry about it. And like I said, this is out of tradition. And the reason why is in modern spelling, generally, this is how you spell the sound if there's an E or an I. But I will cover this in a later video. For now, this is all for the alphabet. So again, referencing my book again, La lengua y sus secretos, you can stop and look at the spelling for the different names. So we have A, B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, L, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And one final note about this one here, Y, this is the academic name, Y, this is the colloquial name. And the reason why is it's not a Greek I. I mean, commonly it's referred to as Greek I, literally I Greek or Greek I. But the Greek letter that looks like this would be this one, which is epsilon, which would be equivalent to U phonetically, as opposed to the Castilian Y or the Spanish Y, which would actually be equivalent to gamma, which gamma could have been a G or a Y as we know it. So keep that in mind, right? I mean, French call it Y as well, but it's just J. J is the academic name of that letter. This being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and like I said, I will have phonological videos where I will talk about the phonology and the pronunciation within the context of a word or an utterance, so you can get the pronunciation and see how they changed. So I will divide those up into groups in the future. This being said, I'll catch you in the next one.
Telelingüística.